Just when we thought the furlough scheme was coming to an end and being replaced with an inferior alternative, Chancellor Rishi Sunak has upped the stakes. In this video, what the new extended new job support scheme means, how it all works, and also some help for the self-employed and businesses in Tier 2 areas. Hi everyone, I'm Martin Bamford, a Chartered Financial Planner at Informed Choice, and in this video we're talking about the latest announcement from Chancellor Rishi Sunak, who is extending the job support scheme. I guess we're now calling this the new extended new job support scheme. I'm sort of losing track at the moment about how it all works. So we'll talk about the terms of this new job support scheme and also the changes to support for the self-employed and grants available for businesses in Tier 2, so high alert areas. This job support scheme comes into force on the 1st of November. It's due to replace the coronavirus jobs retention scheme, what we all know as furlough. And there were a lot of concerns prior to today that the new job support scheme was an inferior alternative to furlough. It looked nowhere near as attractive either for employers or for employees. And as a result, there was a lot of worry that this would lead to mass unemployment, widespread redundancies, would effectively be really bad news for the British economy. So very interesting to see what the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, has announced today. At a headline level, the changes announced today mean that employers will have to contribute less for the hours not worked, and that staff members won't have to work as many hours to qualify for the scheme. There's also more government support too. So just to take you back in time first of all, when this new job support scheme was announced originally as part of Rishi Sunak's winter economic plan, it meant that employers would pay 55% of wages for employers who worked only a third of their hours. That to many employers did not seem like a particularly attractive proposition. It meant paying quite a lot of money, more than half of normal salaries, but only getting your staff to work for a third of their usual hours, so not the most attractive proposition when it was originally announced. This update announced today by the Chancellor means that the new scheme will pay 62% of your wages for hours not worked, and instead of having to work 33% of your regular hours, you only have to work 20% of your regular hours, so effectively 1 day a week. It also doubles the minimum amount paid to £1,041.75. Government funding under these new terms goes from 22% under the old scheme to close to 50%, and the employer contribution for hours not worked falls all the way down to 5%. And as before, this scheme is available to all small businesses, and it's available to larger businesses too, but only those who can demonstrate the impact of COVID-19 by showing they had falling revenues, so they have to have been affected by the economic downturn caused by the pandemic. In the example given by the Treasury, if someone was being paid £587 for their unworked hours, the government would be contributing £543 and their employer only £44. So it's a significant change to the contribution levels from governments and employers compared to when the scheme was originally announced. Something that remains unchanged as a result of today's announcement is the £1,000 job retention bonus that gets paid at the end of January for members of staff who were brought back off furlough and remain employed at that point. And also unchanged is the job support scheme closed, and that is for businesses that are forced to close in those highest tier areas, so no changes to either of those two schemes announced today. There was also some news today from the Chancellor when it comes to the self-employed and a doubling of the self-employed grants, the next two self-employed grants. So the one that runs from November to January and then the one that runs from February to April. The self-employed grants in both cases are going to go from 20% of profits to 40% of profits, so a doubling of that grant scheme. It means that the maximum self-employed grant will increase from £1,875 each time to £3,750 each time. So good news there for the self-employed. And then for businesses which find themselves in these Tier 2 or high alert level lockdown areas, there's some additional grant support there for them too. That was announced today by Chancellor Rishi Sunak. So businesses in the hospitality, accommodation and leisure sectors in those Tier 2 regions will be able to apply for cash grants up to £2,000 £3,100 a month for each month their region remains in Tier 2. And these grants are retrospective, so if regions have been placed into Tier 2 already, you can backdate your grant claim if you're in those hospitality, accommodation and leisure sectors. And these grants announced today for some businesses in Tier 2 lockdown areas are in addition to those previously announced through local authority funding for Tier 3, the very high alert lockdown areas. As before, these grants will be available to businesses in English local authority, English council areas. For the devolved nations, there will be equivalent funding given under the Barnett formula, and those devolved nations can then decide how to best use that money and to pay it to businesses, to support businesses in their local areas. Now, I'm worried that these announcements today take what was already a very complex, very complicated scheme and make it even more complicated, even more complex. And as a result, I worry that one of two things could happen. Either businesses will make the wrong claims, and as a result, they could have to pay money back and make refunds, or they could even be fined by HM Treasury if they incorrectly claim the wrong amounts. So that's one risk. The other risk, I think, is businesses fail to claim what's due to them at all because of the complexity. What do you qualify for? Are you in a Tier 2, Tier 3 area? When did that start? This is horribly complex stuff now, and even as a chartered financial planner, I'm starting to struggle to get my head around some of these changes. So what do you make of the new extended new job support scheme and some of the other announcements today for the self-employed, for certain businesses in Tier 2 areas? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Until next time, thank you for watching. I'm Martin Bamford, and when it comes to your money, the more you know, the faster it can grow.